restoring your credit? That's the great debate. Another great debate is, all of the negative items on my credit report, should I just delete them because it's showing to be negative? You're about to find out in this short video. What up? You got Mr. Smith, 0.5 of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And in this brief video, I want to talk about the great debate. Or one of the great debates in the credit world is centered around deleting all negative items off your report. That's one thing, as well as wondering whether or not the Goodwill letter works. And if that's you, then I totally understand the thought process. And let's see if you get some perspective in this situation. Now, if you're restoring your own credit, then of course there are different strategies that you can implement. Or if you're paying for someone else to restore your credit, then you definitely want to make sure that they understand all of the factors as it relates to your credit, so they can heighten the chances of restoring your credit versus hurting your credit. Or if you restore credit for other people, which is a good chance you clicked on this video that you do, then now you can implement this thought process with your clients if you have not already. Now, let's dive in. I don't want to make this video too long. Now, first of all, let's talk about deleting all of the negative items off of your report. Then we'll talk about the Goodwill letter. Now, if you know about the 5 factors as it relates to your credit, the things that make or break your credit score, then that should answer the question of whether or not you should delete everything on your credit report just because it shows up to be negative. So the 5 factors, real quick, we got payment history, which is, the history of your payments over time, on time, over time. And we got credit utilization, which is dealing with credit cards. How much of your credit limit are you utilizing? The less, the better. Many people say divide by 3. Some people say keep it under 30%. I personally say keep it in the single digits. That's just me. And I've had a couple of scores in the 800s. And, that's my perspective. It just is. Anyway, now, outside of that, we got credit utilization, we got credit history, which is how long your credit has been in the works. Basically, the age of your credit. Have you been using your credit since the age of 18, since the age of 21, since the age of 25? The age of your credit is what reflects on your credit age. Then we got the two that kind of are side by side. We got credit mix and new credit. Now, credit mix is just having a combination of everything that's listed. New credit is basically the recent credit that you've accumulated, because basically the bureaus want to know if you are still capable of paying things on time, all the time, keeping your utilization low, just how recent the new credit that you have on your report, usually up to the past 2 years. Now, when you think about all 5 of those factors and you put it all together, then it kind of gives you the answer of whether or not you should delete things just because it's negative. Because here's the thing. Let's say, for example, you have a negative item on your report and it's showing up to be negative, but when you look at it and you kind of dissect it, you realize, whoa, this is an account showing up to be negative. And even though it might not be open at the time, I paid on this account for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Do I want to delete this? It's no longer open, but I have paid on it over the history of my credit report. Should I delete this fully just because it's showing up to be negative? And my answer is no. Because if you delete it altogether, then you lose the history. So just think about the factors anytime you're trying to wonder, should you do something or not do something? Because if you delete that just because it's showing up as negative, now you delete the history to go along with it. Now the question is, what should you do? Well, in a case like that, and I'm going to use another example. The same can be true for an account that is open. Say you have decent history with this particular account, but it's showing up to be negative due to the fact that it had a late payment. It could have been one. It'll say 30 days late, and it might say it all across all 3 bureaus, or it might say 60 days late, or 90 days late 2 times. It may say a variation of things. So the question is, should you delete it? Absolutely not, because you don't want to lose that good credit history. Just because you were late 1 or 2 times doesn't mean that you're not a good borrower. Doesn't mean that that entity doesn't want to keep you as a customer or a client of their entity. So with that being said, it may be a chance that you can still get it removed off of your report showing as negative without removing the item off of your report altogether. Prime example. Not sure how this shows up, but client of mine, I was able to get 3 items updated to positive. It was 3 negatives. I updated all 3 to positive. So basically it was showing up negative on all 3 bureaus. Now, the question is, how did I do it? Do Goodwill letters work? Or is there another strategy? Well, simply put, I did use a Goodwill letter. So Goodwill letters can work. Now, the Goodwill letter did go directly to the creditor. I sent it to multiple branches. It was a bank. And I sent it to multiple different branches and basically was letting them know, hey, I would like this removed. Basically because I have great history with you all and I would like this removed because there are some things that I may want to do futuristically. And this showing up negative on my report doesn't help me nor our future relationship if I decide to do some other things. So, it may be something along those lines. Now, many people say that you shouldn't do or use the Goodwill letter. And I get why. Because it is an admittance of the fact that you were late. Because most of the time the Goodwill letter is speaking on the fact that, hey, I'm sorry for being late due to the fact that I got sick or I fell on hard times. I personally feel like you should come from an angle of, hey, it's, hindering my interest rate or my credit. And I would like to do future business with you all in the future, but I don't want this to be something held against me. And we got a great relationship. I like, working with you all and hopefully you like working with me. And then something along those lines, even if you admit somewhat, you just say, hey, I don't want this on my report because it's hindering me. Plus, if I want to do things with you in the future, this would be showing up on the report. So Goodwill letters can work strategically if you do it in a way that gives your client or yourself some posture. Because you don't want to lose ground. You don't want to lose posture when you're dealing with them because you are the asset. Keep that in mind. A lot of times people are scared when dealing with the credit bureaus and creditors. You are the asset. If it wasn't for you and many others like you, then they wouldn't have a business. So if you understand that now, you can have a level of posture when you're talking to them like, hey, let's go ahead and remove this out of my report because it's a good chance I might use y'all again. And we had a good relationship. I made a ton of great payments with you all. But I need this off my report because it ain't helping me none as I've helped you. I've helped fatten your pockets. So the least you can do is do what you got to do. Push a couple of buttons and get this removed off my report. So that's how that works. So no, do not delete everything just because it's negative, because there's a good chance that you can turn those negatives into a positive. And Goodwill letters can work, but you want to do it strategically and keep your posture. Maintain your posture when you're talking to these people. That's all I got. Mr. Smith, 0.5 of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, signing out. Salute.